During Nova Scotia's 2020 to 2021 school year, schools reported more than 11,000 violent incidents. That's an average of more than 1,100 incidents every month. So with 120,000 students below the age of 12, President of Nova Scotia Teachers Union, Paul Wozney, says this is not okay. He's calling for more action from the province to support both teachers and students. And Paul Wozney is joining us this morning from Halifax. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Before we get to the factors contributing to violent incidents in classrooms, what kind of violence are we talking about? What does this look like?
I mean, the majority, I think 3/4 of those incidents are, kids 12 and under. So that sometimes that is violence in a learning center setting. Some of those incidents are, with students with behavioral and developmental delays that maybe don't have the same control over their actions that others do. But the 25% of violent incidents in the older age groups tend to be more severe and have lasting harms because students are physically larger, more powerful. Whether the victim of those acts are other children or whether they're adults in the school setting, those are the kinds of violent acts that can result in really severe injury. And we often see injuries from even young children being violent at school.
And what are some of the factors that you believe are leading to that?
I mean, the pandemic has shown just how much we demand and expect of schools these days. Kids used to be schools were a place that you went to learn, and that was kind of all schools were expected to do. But now we know that schools are such critical places that, kids get fed there, they're clothed, they have access to play, and extracurricular activity that benefit their social wellness and development. They access mental health care, social services. There's so much pressure on staff to do things outside of their core function. And that's a factor. Not enough support. School counselor ratios are ridiculous in Nova Scotia. And other specialists like school psychologists and social workers are even worse. So we need more of these people in our system, and the ones that we have are incredibly overworked and overtaxed. And minimal supervision. Staffing shortages mean there's less people in the hallways solving problems in a relational, proactive way.
Before I get to the government response to this, I want to ask anecdotally, you have two daughters. One's in grade 9, the other's in grade 7. What has their experience been like in school?
Yeah, in elementary school, one of my daughters had a classmate who was on a behavioral IPP. So, and that meant multiple times a week, the classroom had to be cleared for safety reasons or be violent and aggressive outbursts. So things would be thrown. Sometimes it was furniture. Sometimes students would be, threatened with sharp objects like scissors, etc. So, it had an impact on how much time kids had to be learning. They were often sheltering in the hallway or other teachers' classrooms nearby. And then recently in high school, we've seen staffing slashed in metro high schools. And the high school my daughter attends, there was a major brawl. A couple of dozen students were involved. It happened right outside her classroom. And the teacher was forced with a decision to either kind of go out into the fray or to really lock the door to protect the violence from spilling into the classroom and impacting the students she was teaching. And so my daughter was trying to learn French at a time. You could hear people being punched and kicked and banging up against the door while you're trying to learn. Things are not great in classrooms when it comes to violence.
We reached out to the province's Minister of Education, Becky Drouin, for a statement on violent incidents in schools. Here's what the minister had to say. Harm or bullying of any kind to our students or members of our school communities is not acceptable, will not be tolerated. We provide programs, resources, and professional supports to help teachers and other staff help children build social, emotional learning skills that they need. What's your response to that? Is it enough?
I mean, it's not that there's nothing being done, but really, Nova Scotia's education system is coming off 8 years of being used as a punching bag by the former Liberal government, by ending programs, reallocating resources, that's what they called it, but in effect, it's service cuts. So I've invited our minister to engage in a joint review of school staff workload so that she can get a firsthand picture of the pressures that staff are facing and how limited they are in the ability to respond to the complex needs that schools are expected to deal with. And the other thing that I believe needs to happen, it's time for a national conversation on publicly funded public education. The federal government has always been hands-off about issues like this. Provinces are facing pressures. There's only so much money to go around with provinces. It's time for the federal government to have a role in funding schools to make sure that they can address the complex needs that communities and students and staff all have to kind of solve together in school settings these days.
Yeah, we're seeing this kind of pressure right across the country. Paul Wozney, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me, and stay safe.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.